All right, now Nikki here is going to demonstrate how we would start with a horse. So a lot of times if I refer to a horse, we're rarely using a donkey, but we're trying to do this in a way for you to learn to do it with horses, okay? So donkeys are notorious for having a stiff neck and having a lot of resistance, okay? So the first thing you want to do is soften that neck and that jaw like Nikki's doing, okay? So before we got started here today, when I came to the barn here this morning, Nikki had her curry comb though, and she curried him very thoroughly before we started. So she obtained relaxation first, okay, which I think is very important. So what she's doing is taking her hands and she's trying to soften that neck and that jaw and eliminating resistance, okay? So when she gives pressure and he yields, then she releases. Okay, very good. Now let's do the other side.
I'm going to turn sideways.
Sure. So, you know, Elmer, he's a pretty friendly guy, but some of these donkeys are pretty tough and pretty resistive. Well, the whole purpose of this is we're just trying to show you that you can take a stiff, old, tough donkey and soften him to where you can move him with a feather. Everybody says donkeys are stubborn, but they're not. They're actually very smart, but they got a lot of resistance in them. So most of the problem people are having with their horses is that there's just a lot of resistance in that animal. So we want to eliminate resistance. So it's not a physical thing as much as it is a mental thing. So that resistance that he has is not in his neck, it's in his brain, it's in his mind. So you've got to occupy this animal's mind before we start teaching him to do special things. And you'll see here in a little bit, when we start riding this donkey, we're going to ride him as soft as we are a horse. Okay? So just keep working on that, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. So like I said earlier, it's more of a mental thing than a physical. So we're going to ask him now to yield his feet. So it's not about him giving us his foot, it's about him releasing his mind and mentally giving us no resistance. When we make a request, not a demand, a request, he's to yield, okay? Now we're going to get Barney out here in a little bit, and he's a little fresher than Elmer here, but I think it's good for you just to kind of see where we want to end up. I got to confess, I'm cheating just a little because I worked with Elmer the other day a little bit before Nikki got here. When he came in here, he was just a typical old resistive donkey. But I got him doing pretty good. But you got to go through these steps right here. You know, the biggest trap that you can fall into is to grab a hold of that halter and get in a tug of war with this donkey. Because I will tell you this, he will make an ass out of you and an ass out of him. That's why they call them asses, I guess. Because if you take that halter and you try to pull him around, you're going to look awful foolish. And you're not going to get it done. You're not going to eliminate resistance. This is how you do it. You start with his feet, you start with the end of his nose and his jaw, just like this, okay? And you just keep doing that until you can move those feet with a feather. Very, very light. So now she's going to take her rope and she's going to turn Elmer and get him to release his back and to yield his neck and to teach him softness. So rather than pulling him forward to lead, we're going to pull him in a circle. So if you have weanlings or if you have yearlings, this is how you do it right here. Don't get out there and get to pulling on them, getting in a tug of war. You can do this without breaking a sweat. And trust me, folks, I've learned this the hard way. I've tried it every other way. This is the way to do it. So get your weanlings and your yearlings and any horses you have that have resistance. And resistance is they're saying no. You feel stiffness. When you put pressure on that rope, you feel them pulling away from you, okay? So our goal is we're going to ride him this way. We're going to ride him this soft, but we're going to ask him to turn this softly in hand. So we're developing a communication between our hands and his mind. Just like this. Okay. And that's how I recommend you start teaching a donkey, a yearling, a weanling, how to lead. Key points: get your curry comb and you develop relaxation first, and then find and eliminate resistance.